The Book of Giants is an apocryphal Jewish book which expands the primeval creation to end the time narrative of the Hebrew Bible, and by its multifaceted elaborations on divine decrees of warning and doom, ties the ancient prophet Enoch. Enoch, as we know, is a biblical figure, patriarch prior to Noah's flood, the son of Jared, father of Methuselah. He was of the antediluvian period in the Hebrew Bible, and he was taken up to God. So the ancient prophet Enoch, tied to this, closer to his generally recognized storyline, that does even the story principle treatise of 1 Enoch, together with Enoch's Book of the Watchers, and Enochic scholar James Vanderkam maintains it stands as an attempt to explain how it was that wickedness had become so widespread and muscular before the flood, and in doing so, it also supplies a reason why God was more than justified in sending the flood, and the giants discovered at Qumran dates the text creation to before the 2nd century BC. The Book of Giants is an antediluvian pre-flood narrative that was received primarily in Manichaean literature known at Turfan, but the earliest known traditions of the book originate in Aramaic copies of Book of Giants among the Dead Sea Scrolls. References to giants in mythology are, of course, the Genesis 6 giants, the Nephilim, and also the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Genesis Apocrypha, the Book of 2 and 3 Baruch, the Damascus document, the visions in Daniel 7, 9, 14, the Book of Daniel, the 2nd century BC biblical apocalypse with 6th century BC setting. We know the prophet Daniel was, of course, in the exile of Israel to Babylon, about 600 BC, ostensibly an account of the activities and visions of Daniel, and it combines a prophecy of history with an eschatological cosmic scope. So the book tells of background and fate of antediluvian giants and their fathers, the Watchers, called Grigori, and the sons of God, or Holy Ones, who rebelled against heaven when, in forbidden violation of the strict boundaries of creation, they commingled in their lust with the daughters of men. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. They're even more corrupt offspring, the giants, the Nephilim, as we know, or Gibborim or Rephaim. Please refer to the video I just posted concerning the Rephaim. The basically thought to be the Titans before the pantheon of ancient Greek gods of Olympus. They were huge and they had special powers. So the Nephilim, Rephaim, Gibborim, being the earthly half-breed races that fought against God and his righteous followers, whose numbers diminished as the world was overwhelmed with corruption and evil. The Manichaean fragments give these wicked ones the general name demons. So Greek Enoch calls them bastards, but they were demons, though the term for the Watchers and their offspring are often confused in their various translations and iterations. Collectively, these rebellious races are referred to as the fallen angels in the apocryphal sources, as also in the biblical narratives that reference them. The origins in ancient Jewish tradition. Since before the latter half of the 20th century, the Book of Giants had long been known as a Middle Iranian work, which some scholars now believe was written originally in Eastern Aramaic, that circulated among Manichaeans and composed a composition attributed to Mani about 216 AD, a Parthian citizen of Mesopotamia who appears to have been a follower of El-Khazai, a Jewish Christian prophet and visionary who lived in the early years of the 2nd century. Some scholars, concordant with supporting evidence for the ancient sex distribution, have posited both generic and ritual custom similarities between the Alkacites and earlier Second Temple Jewish sect of the Essenes. During the 20th century, a number of finds shed considerable light on the literary evidence of the Book of Giants. In 1943, the publication by Henning, fragment of the Book of Giants discovered at Turfan in western China, of all places, in what is now Xinjiang province, have sustained substantially the many references to its circulation and used by Manichaeans, and further identification of this Book of Giants, revealed in 1971, discovered several additional Aramaic fragments of Enochic works in the Dead Sea Scrolls. He astonished the scholarly world upon announcing that the fragments bore close resemblance to the Book of Giants of Mani, then compounded this scholarly astonishment further, claiming that these giants originally in the integral part of 1 Enoch itself, and the fragment scrolls in Aramaic, which represent an Enochic tradition that was likely introduced to Mani in his sojourn with the El-Kessites. Now, in his book, in which he made the legend of the Watchers as the giants a cornerstone of his theological speculations, and for many scholars, the Qumran fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls confirm the Book of Giants to originally have been an independent composition from the Second Temple period. And among the fragments discovered in Qumran, 10 manuscripts of the Book of Giants are identified by Stuckenberg, various fragments listed here. These discoveries led to further classification of the Enochic works, and in the third group of classification, 10 Aramaic manuscripts contain part of the Book of Giants, which were only known through the Manichaean sources until the recognition of them in Qumran. Now, there's been much speculation regarding the original language of the Book of Giants. It was generally believed that they have had a Semitic origin. Indeed, the discovery of this text at Qumran led scholars such as Andel and Rudolf Otto to believe that while these ancient Aramaic compositions of the books were the earliest known, the work probably had even earlier Hebrew antecedents. It was Charles, translator and publisher in 1906 of the Book of Enoch, who asserted that Enoch was, quote, built upon the debris of, quote, an older Noah saga than that in Genesis, which only cryptically refers to Enoch's myth. But Milik himself offered his own hypothesis that Enoch's creation story and the law of God account naturally predate the Mosaic Sinai accounts in Genesis. He saw Genesis 6, the Genesis 6 giants, the Nephilim, long a puzzling passage to biblical scholars, as a quotation from what he believes ultimately to have been the earlier Enoch source. More recent scholarship, such as that of Klaus Meyer, indicates that the Book of Giants, part of which have been found in Hebrew at Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, was originally composed in Hebrew during the 3rd century BC, while the names of the giants, Gilgamesh and Hobabish, betray a Babylonian provenance. In other words, Gilgamesh, obviously a giant, was Babylonian, which Babylonian origins claims, based on the name, appears, however, is refuted by Martinez of 1997. Martinez, but whatever the reality, one thing remains certain: the Qumran books and their fragments are now the oldest known Enochic manuscripts in existence. The contents of the Dead Sea Scroll version. The text unearthed in Qumran in 1948 was composed in fragments in Aramaic, and because of the book's fragmentation, it was difficult for the document's linguistic researchers and specialists to know various varied permutations and exact order of the context. The Giants' work is closely related to Enoch's analog, which also tells a story of the giants, but one which is far more elaborate. The Qumran Book of Giants also bears a resemblance to the Manichaean Book of Giants that came after it. Scholars, beyond their many questions of the Enochian tradition, oral and written transmission, still don't know why the Qumran community considered the Enochic text so important that they possessed and retained so many copies in comparison with other textual traditions of this Book of Giants. Obviously, they thought they were very important. That's why they had so many copies. The Book of Giants is an expansive narrative of the biblical story of the birth of giants in Genesis 6, 1-4. It's the first book of the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Old Testament. In Hebrew, it's the same as the first word Bereshit, Genesis, the account of creation. So in the story, the giants came into being when the Watcher, son of God, who per the story corroborative Jubilees account, God originally dispatched to earth for the purpose of instructing and nurturing humanity, quote, in proper ritual and ethical conduct to do what is just and upright on earth, end quote, were seduced by and had sexual intercourse with human women, who then birthed a hybrid race of giants. These Watchers, Grigori, and giants, Nephilim, and Nephilim we know are the mysterious beings or people in the Hebrew Bible who are large and strong. The word Nephilim, loosely translated as giants in some translations of the Hebrew Bible. They were engaged in destructive and grossly immoral actions which devastated humanity, including the revealing of heaven's holy secrets or mysteries to their wives and children and to mankind generally. When Enoch heard of this, he was distressed and petitioned God, who in his long suffering and by divine revelation and counsel called Enoch to preach repentance unto them, that the earthly races might avoid God's wrath and destruction. In his mercy, God chose also to give the fallen Watchers an additional chance to repent by transmitting dreams to several of their giant sons, including two brothers named Ohia and Hahia, who relayed the dreams to an assembly of their Grigori and Nephilim companions. This assembly of Watcher giants associates were perplexed by the dreams, so they sent a giant named Mahwe to Enoch's abode and to the place of his preaching, for Mahwe had been instructed that he must first hear the prophet, that is, Enoch, speak before petitioning him for the oracle. The oracle being, as we know, a person or considered to be provide wise, insightful counsel or prophetic prediction. Now Enoch, in his attempt to intercede on their behalf, provided not only the oracle that the Watchers and giants had requested, but also the twin tablets, religious text, that revealed the full meaning of their dreams and God's future judgment against them. When the Watchers and giants had at least heard heaven's response, many chose in their transcendent pride and arrogance, rather than to turn from their evil ways, to act in defiance against God. The Qumran fragments are incomplete at this point, but this is what the Qumran Dead Sea Scroll fragments say. Other texts, much of the context of the Book of Giants is similar to 1 Enoch 7, the passage which sheds light on the characterized features of the giants. It reveals that the giants were born of the Watchers, sons of God, and the daughters of men, and the giants, as their prostituted half-breed offspring, began to devour the works of what they perceived as to be a lesser race, mankind that is, and went on to viciously exploit them and do away with them in slavery and debauchery. And they also sinned against nature within the most defiling, violent ways against beasts, birds of the sky, creeping things, fish of the sea, etc. They murdered on a massive scale, also aborted their own children. Qumran documents also mention the giants devouring flesh of those exploited and of one another. Various things, weird, terrible things. Now the fallen angels among men and a genesis of evil. The Qumran texts make up this so-called Book of Giants, may seem to offer various faiths a more complete picture of the beginning of evil than the Eden story. The Genesis story we read today is well known, was greatly altered by ancient Deuteronomist scribes and historians and others, and according to their own religion, political agendas, and does not therefore represent the pristine form of whatever may have been its primordial message. And while the Book of Giants cannot by any means heal that breach, it does begin to answer questions and fill in gaps and make more clear perhaps what was originally intended. The Qumran fragments that began to be discovered in 1948 relate how a small cadre of giants, offspring of the fallen angels called Watchers, including Ohia and Hahia, who were both sons of Shemihazah, chieftains of the Watchers, and also Mahwe, giant son of the Watchers, Barakel, experienced dreams that foresee the biblical flood. These disturbing omens are told to an assembly of fallen angels that had originally organized their secret society on Mount Hermon as a body of 200 members bound together by a dark combination of clandestine oaths and operational pacts by which they might ruthlessly achieve their personal and collective aims. Now, the giant Mahwe, an associate of Ohia, is summoned to the assembly of the fallen angels and put under secret oath under pain of death to approach Enoch and the distinguished scribe, an apostle from the south, in order to obtain prophetic interpretation of their son's ominous visions of what appears threatening to them as imminent catastrophe. An oracle I have come to ask you here, declares Mahwe, after listening to Enoch's passage to the people. From you a second time I ask for the oracle. We shall listen to your words, and the Nephilim of the earth also, if God is going to take away from the days of their existence, that they may be punished. We of these portents should like to know from you their explanation. Now, the Hebrew version expression of Noah's sons, Mahwe had claimed to have heard Enoch speaking, namely very lovingly, in his desperate plea and call that the giant follow Enoch to safety. Later, after the fallen watchers and giants had asked Enoch to make petition and to intercede for them before God, Enoch, who takes his ascent in the northern land of Dan at the foot of Mount Hermon, returned from the heavenly attempt, as he would also from his later universal visions and cosmic journeys made in the last year of his earthly sojourn, guided by Archangel Uriel. An archangel, as we know, is an angel of high rank. The word archangel itself usually associated with Abrahamic religions. So, guided by Archangel Uriel and with 2 tablets, an epistle written in the distinguished scribe's own hand from the Lord of Spirits and the Holy One, giving God's answer to Shemihazah and his companions. Now, the Manichaean Book of Giants, Milik explains Raphael is the conqueror of Ohia, Raphael, of course, being Archangel Raphael, and of all the other watchers and of their giant sons. The same work intimates that all 4 archangels, Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel, were engaged in the struggle with the 200 watchers and their offspring, and those 200 demons fought a hard battle with the 4 angels until the angels used fire, naphtha, and brimstone. The Enochic literature records the collusion of the archangels with the righteous, both seen and unseen, 2 Kings 6, against their demon foes. 400,000 righteous came with fire, naphtha, and brimstone, and the fallen angels moved out of sight of Enoch. This is in the book of Moses at 7:14. The giants stood afar off in great fear of Enoch and the people of God. Then, after the course of more than 300 years dwelling amidst his holy people, Moses 7:18, when the patriarch warrior king suddenly was not, for God took him, the archangel Raphael sent to Shemaziah a warning message that brought complete fulfillment to heaven's former decree. Quote, the Holy One is about to destroy his world and bring upon it a flood, end quote. The archangel Uriel, beyond his role of instructing Enoch among the stars, directs Noah to prepare his escape from the flood. So here it says that the archangel Uriel was the one who told Noah to prepare his ark for the flood, and figures prominently in the final judgment of the world in the end times that will be administered by the Son of Man, figure as foretold in Enoch's book of dreams and apocalypse of weeks. 2 other archangels, Raguel and Phanuel. Raguel is an angel mainly of the Judaic tradition. He's considered the angel of justice, and it means friend of God. And Phanuel is a name given to the 4th angel who stands before God in the book of Enoch, after the angels Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. Other spelling of Phanuel is Peniel or Orphael. It means face of God. Sometimes confused with Archangel Remiel. Now, they're also mentioned in Enochian material with respect to the archangel Sariel, an angel mainly from Judaic tradition, the name sometimes given to the Qumranic texts as taking the place of Uriel or Phanuel, and it is the Manichaean tradition drawing on the Book of Giants that preserves that archangelic name more faithfully than do the Greek and Ethiopian traditions. The Qumran Book of Giants, like its Manichaean counterpart, affiliates the names of Sumerian hero Gilgamesh and the monster Humbaba with the Watchers and Giants. Now, the ancient Mesopotamian religion Humbaba, also spelled Huwawa, and surnamed the Terrible, was a monstrous giant of immemorable age, raised by Uta, the sun or justice truth god. Humbaba was the guardian of the cedar forest where the gods lived by the will of God Enlil. So this is what the Qumran Dead Sea Scrolls tell us about the Book of Giants. Obviously, they believed that these entities existed, and they were the cause, because of their great evil acts, they were the cause of the deluge, of the flood, of the great flood. And Archangel Uriel was the archangel who gave the message to Noah that he should prepare the ark for his family to be saved. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.